Hey, I just want to say... thanks. We really couldn't have done this without you. I really appreciate it. Alright, so there. That's over and done with.
I gotta say, I'm a little sad it's over.
Well, who knows? Maybe this is just the beginning.
Hello everyone, and I'm Autobot Sonic the Telltale Gamer, bringing listener in Telltale Games, Transformers, and more, and this is something that was certainly not on my Telltale bingo card for 2022, but yet here we are. I honestly thought this was a pipe dream. I thought this was a pipe dream even more than Season 2 of The Wolf Among Us, but today at Gearbox's official panel at PAX East 2022, we got confirmation from Gearbox that a Tales from the Borderlands Season 2 is in development. But wait, just hold on, hold your horses there, everyone. I know you're probably super excited just as I am for Tales from the Borderlands 2, but before we get ourselves too hyped up from this, I just want to go ahead and just talk a little bit more about the announcement for Tales from the Borderlands 2 and just what we can expect from it, because there's some things in here that may turn off a few people from this game. Certainly not me, though. I'm super excited for this, but I understand that there's things we got to go about with this, talk about with this announcement that I think warrants some discussion. So if you're excited as I am for Tales of the Borderlands 2, finally, after 7 years since the first Tales of the Borderlands came out, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe. Let's go ahead and jump right into this whole announcement for Tales of the Borderlands 2. So as I stated earlier in this video, Gearbox announced officially at their PAX East 2022 panel that they are developing a new Tales from the Borderlands game that will be released this year. Not next year, not 2024. It will be released this year in 2022. Gearbox's official Twitter and the official Borderlands Twitter tweeted out earlier today around like 3:45 p.m. on April 21st. This video will be going up tomorrow on the 22nd, but I'm just saying today isn't because I'm recording it today. I would have gotten to this sooner, but I was at work all day, so I couldn't talk about this until just now. But Gearbox's official Twitter and the official Borderlands Twitter tweeted out this image with the following caption: "New adventure, new characters, new tales. An all-new Tales from the Borderlands game will be coming in 2022 from Gearbox and 2K." So, yeah, we have this official teaser image of Tales from the Borderlands 2 with this lovely, like, sun or moon radiating a bright cyan aura around this vault's portal. And in front of the vault portal, we see the silhouettes of what I presume would be our three characters. We have one feminine-looking figure to the left here with a big, fluffy, like a big, like, pompadour hairstyle. She's got, like, big earrings hanging down from her sides. We have another figure sitting in the middle with what appears to be like some sort of throne or chair. And then we have a more masculine-looking figure on the right, looking rather exhausted. And honestly, I am super excited for this. But before we get too excited for this, let's just take a moment to just talk about how crazy this is. Not only are we getting Tales from Borderlands 2, but this year just seems to be the comeback era for Telltale, where first off, we got the announcement in February that The Wolf Among Us Season 2 will be coming out in February. Not in February, we got the announcement in February of this year that The Wolf Among Us 2 will be coming out in 2023. We got, that will be developed by Telltale and Ad Hoc. We have the Clementine comic that's coming out this summer in just 2 months actually, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I know a certain YouTuber clearly has made up his mind already about how this is the worst thing ever and it kills Clementine's story, but I'm just gonna go into it with a optimistic mind and still enjoy it. Hopefully it doesn't. I know the Free Comic Book Day special wasn't the best thing to happen, but I am certainly excited for optimistic that this will provide a much more substantial telling of Clementine's story. But enough of that. We also finally, of course, have, as I mentioned here today, Tales of the Borderlands 2 being announced, and I couldn't be happier. For any of you who don't know, the original Tales of the Borderlands, and I can't believe I'm saying that, I can now call it Tales from the Borderlands Season 1, Playing Tales of the Borderlands Season 1, that was my first ever Let's Play I did on my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel back in 2015 when Episode 3 of Tales of the Borderlands Season 1 came out. I did a Let's Play of that, as well as Episodes 4 and 5, and that was my first ever Let's Play series on this channel, and man, just thinking back to it now, that was 7 years ago. Well, almost 7 years. This May, in just a few weeks, will actually be the 7th year anniversary of my YouTube channel, but to think that it was 7 years ago when the end of Tales of the Borderlands came out in October 2015, it just blows my mind. And now, I was 17 years old when Tales of the Borderlands came out, and now I'm gonna be 24 when the sequel comes out. It's crazy. Just like how I was 15 when The Wolf Among Us 1 came out, I'm gonna be 25 probably when The Wolf Among Us 2 comes out. Oh my god, it's just crazy how fast time flies. So now we got that out of the way, I just want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about how Gearbox and Borderlands basically worded this announcement for Tales of the Borderlands 2. Not only in this tweet that we got from Gearbox's official Twitter, but Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, said when he announced Tales of the Borderlands at the PAX East panel that Tales of the Borderlands 2 will feature, as the tweet says, a brand new story with brand new characters. Now, before everyone's saying, oh, I don't care about new characters, give us Reese and Fiona, we literally had this same thing happen with Life is Strange years ago. If we think back to, I remember so many people were hating on Life is Strange because, oh, we don't care about Sean Daniel, we want to see the story of Max and Chloe continue. But, and yeah, I get it, don't worry, I get it as much as you guys. I love Reese and Fiona. I think they are fantastic characters in the Borderlands franchise, and it was great to see Reese and Vaughn again in Borderlands 3, too. Even though their roles weren't as big as maybe I hoped for them to be, they still played pretty key roles in Borderlands 3 that I was satisfied with their, appearances in those games, and their roles in those games, I should say. I just wish, though, that they kind of filled in the gaps more of what happened to them in between events of Tales of the Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 3, but that's just a story for another day. So, it seems as though with Tales of the Borderlands Season 2, it's going to focus on a brand new batch of characters, but yet looking at these silhouettes in the Vault portal, I can't help but think that they're actually old characters. Specifically, I want to talk about first off, the feminine-looking figure on the left here. Now, I get that it's not that hard to tell because it's a rather, again, we haven't really seen anyone with this shape of a body before, but if we look like really, really closely at this image, we can see that there's that the hairstyle and with the small earrings that are on this person's ears, I want to say that this is honestly Sasha from Tales of the Borderlands 1. It reminds me a lot of Sasha, and I know the hair doesn't really match Sasha, but it sort of resembles how she looked in the future timeline at the end of Episode 5 of Tales of the Borderlands Season 1. So could this just be another big time skip where Sasha just let her hair grow out more and she became more pompous, I should say? Because even though she was basically lived all of Season 1 as a hustler with Fiona, could be possible that maybe with various connections she got or the money that she got from the Vault of the Traveler, she kind of maybe just climbed up the social ladder and became more of an aristocratic character. I really, really don't know because we haven't seen Sasha at all since Tales of the Borderlands, though there was an Easter egg back in Borderlands 3. I'm just going to go on a little rant here because I actually made a video, I was planning on making a video back in 2019 after Borderlands 3 came out, basically going over every single Tales of the Borderlands reference in Borderlands 3, but I just lost motivation for that video. So in Borderlands 3, of course, we know Reese and Vaughn play major roles in the events of Borderlands 3. Reese especially being the new head of Atlas after he rebuilt it during the events of Tales of the Borderlands Season 1. In that, though, we now know that Zero is no longer a Vault Hunter, and Reese has hired him as his own personal assassin / bodyguard, acting as one of the highest-ranking lieutenants for Atlas. So Zero and Reese are just kind of like good buddies, and we can actually find an echolog in Borderlands 3 that has Reese talking to Zero about searching for an unknown woman. Now, neither Zero nor Reese actually say who this woman is. We only actually know that the person that they're talking about is a woman because Zero says that he couldn't find any sign of her. That's it. We don't know if her relates to Sasha, Fiona, someone else in maybe even Gortys, but we have no idea. The only reason I think it might be Sasha is from another Easter egg in Borderlands 3, where if you go to Reese's desk on Promethea in Borderlands 3, you can actually find a picture of Sasha on Reese's desk that is it's not like a brand new picture created just for Borderlands 3. It's actually literally just a screenshot from Tales from the Borderlands episode 5 that they framed in this picture, which I think is pretty funny. But the fact still remains, though, that Rhys has a picture of Sasha on his desk in Borderlands 3. So what exactly does this mean for Borderlands 3? Does this mean that Rhys has a picture of Sasha because he and him the two of them are dating? Does this mean maybe they were dating at some point, but maybe Sasha broke up with him, and maybe that's why he's having Zero look for her, because he has no idea where she went? Or maybe this is just because if you chose to take over Hyperion in Tales of Borderlands Season 1, Episode 4, instead of just saying no to Jack, Sasha doesn't really portray any real romantic feelings toward Rhys, but it could be maybe that she got over that and eventually did hook up with Rhys in between the events of Tales in Borderlands 1 and 3. But again, we just don't know what is going on with Sasha at all. She and Fiona have been MIA since Tales in the Borderlands 1 ended, and we saw Fiona and Rhys open the Vault of Traveler, they opened that big chest, and then just disappeared. Obviously, we know Rhys eventually found his way to Promethea, as he appears as a major character in Borderlands 3, but we don't know where he went after the event of Tales in the Borderlands 1. How did he get up to Promethea? Did he reconnect with Vaughn? How did he start up this big Crimson or Atlas facility on Promethea and basically hire Zero as his personal bodyguard / assassin? We don't know these things, and I'm hoping that Tales from the Borderlands 2, even though we may be focusing on a brand new cast of characters, we get some sort of conclusion to Sasha, Fiona, and even Rhys and Vaughn's stories that we still need to tell the story of between Tales from the Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 3. Moving on now to the figure on the right. When I first saw this, I thought for sure that this was going to be Vaughn, because the hairstyle reminded me a lot of Vaughn. The collar on this man's shirt or jacket kind of reminds me of the way Vaughn's collar looked back in Tales from the Borderlands, back in the flashbacks, and especially in the Borderlands 2 Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary DLC. It reminds me a lot of Vaughn's appearance in that DLC from Borderlands 2. But the more I'm looking at this, and I actually saw a really cool tweet about this in response to in the official Tales from the Borderlands 2 announcement, a lot of people think this is actually also Timothy Lawrence, aka Handsome Jack's body double. If you don't know the story of Timothy Lawrence, his story sort of originated back in Borderlands 2, where Handsome Jack, of course, had a bunch of body doubles because he was just that envious of himself, and also just obviously for protection. There was a whole mission where in order to break into a vault that Handsome Jack had, you had to kill his body doubles just so that you could steal one of their voice boxes, and so you could make your voice sound like Handsome Jack. But digressing from that, that would continue into Borderlands the pre-sequel, where Timothy Lawrence actually showed up as a playable Vault Hunter in Borderlands the pre-sequel, where he was, of course, obviously, basically just a way for players to actually play as Handsome Jack in Borderlands the pre-sequel. Then, of course, he returned again as the main character of the first DLC pack for Borderlands 3, called, I think it was called Mad Moxie and the Handsome Jackpot. It involved her and Timothy Lawrence charging the Borderlands 3 Vault Hunters with performing a heist on the Handsome Jackpot, which is this big space casino that Handsome Jack ran, and about you just looting it to try and get some rewards there. I will say the outfit and the design does heavily look a lot like how Timothy Lawrence looks in Borderlands 3, so maybe this is about him. Who knows? Because the little, you can notice there's a little like satchel or bag on this person's right leg here. That to me looks a lot like the one that's on Timothy Lawrence's Borderlands 3 model. So could this very well be Timothy Lawrence working with Sasha perhaps on the left side? I don't know, but if that is Timothy Lawrence, I'm super excited to see more of him, because I really did enjoy his roles in Borderlands 3 in the pre-sequel. Finally, that leaves us off with the very last character in this little silhouette, and that's this middle character sitting on what appears to be some sort of throne. Now, again, the silhouette of the throne is just so big, we don't really get a good look of who this character sitting in this throne or chair is, but I think what we see here from this little bump on the top, the highest bump, I believe that's supposed to be this person's face, and if you look at the very, very top, it almost looks like they're wearing some sort of hat. Now, from the shape of the hat alone, I'm inclined to think that this is Fiona from Tales of Borderlands 1 sitting in this throne/chair. And if it is Fiona, I could totally get behind that because, of course, Fiona was the second main character of Tales of the Borderlands 1 alongside Reese, and while we know what happened to Reese and Vaughn, since we now know they're in Borderlands 3, we never saw what happened to both Fiona and Sasha. So does this mean that Fiona's going to be the main character of Tales of the Borderlands 2? It's going to be her working with Sasha and Timothy Lawrence to do some sort of new adventure? Or perhaps maybe Tales of the Borderlands 2 will instead focus on 2 new characters that get hired to work with Fiona, Sasha, and Timothy Lawrence and do some sort of thing for them as well. It could very easily be that as well, and whatever it is though, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really interested though what this throne is, because if it is Fiona, could this perhaps maybe be some sort of treasure from the Vault of the Traveler? Maybe it's something to do with the Gortys project, because again, Gortys is another character we haven't seen since Tales of the Borderlands 1. We haven't seen her, we haven't seen Loaderbot, we haven't seen August, and I just want some sort of closure on them. It's been 7 years since we last saw Fiona and Sasha, and I just want to see them again, please. So if these 3 characters end up being Fiona, Sasha, and Timothy Lawrence, I would be so happy for that. Now, another thing I'd just like to talk about, since we've gone over basically what Tales of Borderlands 2 is going to be about, and who I believe these 3 characters are in the silhouette teaser image for Tales of Borderlands Season 2, I just want to talk more about, like, some more of my personal thoughts on Tales of Borderlands 2, what I think it's going to be like, especially considering the fact that, apparently, as far as we know, Telltale isn't involved with Tales of Borderlands 2, and I know so far, from what I'm seeing on Twitter, this has made fans of Tales of Borderlands extremely divisive, and I understand for good reason that people are worried that since Telltale isn't involved with Tales of Borderlands Season 2, that it's not going to feel like a Tales from the Borderlands game. They're going to ruin the story of it, and those are reasonable concerns. I get you, but you gotta go into this with a glass half full sort of attitude, my guys. So basically, from what I've seen, is everyone is saying that because since we got confirmation from Andy Pitchford that Tales of the Borderlands Season 2 is being developed in-house by Gearbox and not by Telltale or some other company composed of former Telltale employees, that leads people to believe that the writing for Tales of the Borderlands 2 is going to be extremely shoddy, and I just don't quite get that, considering everyone's saying that the only reason that because of this is because, oh, Borderlands 3 sucked as a story, so therefore Tales of the Borderlands Season 2 is gonna suck. And I understand that. Like, here's the thing. Here's my personal experience with Borderlands 3. In terms of story, Borderlands 2 is that my favorite story in the entire Borderlands franchise, and then Tales of the Borderlands Season 1 is, like, right below it. Borderlands 3, I will admit, Borderlands 3 definitely has the best gameplay of the entire Borderlands franchise, but I will admit, the story of Borderlands 3 is certainly weaker than Borderlands 2, but I didn't hate Borderlands 3. I definitely think it was a good story. It was better than Borderlands 1. I think Borderlands 3 was a serviceable story. I enjoyed it, and I definitely had fun with it. I just understand that I didn't personally enjoy it as much as I did with Borderlands 2, but what I will say I did enjoy, though, that was also made by Gearbox, was Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which just came out last month. And for anyone who don't know, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a spin-off Borderlands game taking place between the events of Borderlands 2 and 3, where essentially they took the Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep DLC from Borderlands 2 and turned that into a full-on game where you're playing as a self-insert character doing a Bunkers and Badasses game with Tiny Tina, and the writing in that is so hilarious. As someone who's actually gotten back into D&D games for the first time in almost 10 years, it's so cool just to see, like, just see all these jokes being made about D&D and just tabletop gaming in general, and I'm having a great time with Wonderlands. So I understand how you guys can be worried for Tales of the Borderlands 2 when Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was just such a fun game to play. I understand for Borderlands 3, but Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is really fun, guys. I think you're just maybe being a little too aggressive on it at this point. Another concern I see a lot of people having with Tales of the Borderlands 2 is as far as the cast goes. As I said before, a lot of people are worried that since this game is going to feature primarily new characters, this means that Reese and Fiona and other Tales of the Borderlands Season 1 characters aren't going to be included in Tales of the Borderlands Season 2, and I understand, that's a reasonable fear. A lot of people were worried about that with Borderlands 3 when Fiona and Sasha weren't shown any of the trailers for Borderlands 3, and of course, we didn't get them at all, not even the DLC. I was really hoping that Borderlands 3, one of the 4 DLC packs of Borderlands 3, was going to be a hypothetical Tales of the Borderlands Season 2 that would revolve around Reese and Vaughn working together to try and find Fiona and Sasha. Maybe Gortys is with them too, I don't know. I was really hoping one of the DLC packs would be about Tales of the Borderlands, because as much as I loved Reese and Vaughn's roles in Borderlands 3, they didn't really answer any of the questions we had left over from Tales of the Borderlands Season 1, so I was hoping that a DLC pack would do that, but I did love Reese and Vaughn's roles in Borderlands 3. But further in regard to the cast, a lot of people I see are saying that, oh, they want Troy Baker back as Reese in Tales of the Borderlands 2 if he does show up, because if it's Ray Chase again, then, oh, it's gonna be horrible. But honestly, now I'm gonna say something very, very controversial, and I'm probably gonna get maybe a bit of hate this, but I'm just gonna say anyway. I honestly could care less if Troy Baker came back as Reese in Tales of the Borderlands 2. Now, I'm not saying this is because I hated Troy Baker's performance as Reese. No, far from it. I thought he did an amazing job as Reese. I'm a fan of a lot of Troy Baker's work, obviously. Joel in The Last of Us, Higgs in Death Stranding, and a bunch of other stuff. But just honestly, after the whole NFT fiasco with him earlier this year, and then just a lot of other stuff I've seen online of him just being sort of really egotistical and stuff like that, I don't know, just me personally, I'm fine if Troy Baker doesn't come back to voice, if they don't get Troy Baker back to voice Reese in Tales of the Borderlands 2. And if they decide to stick with Ray Chase, I'm totally on board with that, because honestly, I thought Ray Chase did a great job as Reese in Borderlands 3, that he did a great job of capturing Troy Baker's essence as Reese in Borderlands 3, and honestly, I think Ray Chase could definitely pull off playing as Reese again if he does return for Tales of the Borderlands 2. Now, for any of you who don't know who Ray Chase is, of course, and just don't understand what I'm talking about, you may recognize him also as the voice of Marlon in The Walking Dead, the final season. So, I think that's just crazy, seeing him go from playing a more sinister or even just immature and paranoid character like Marlon to just this wacky, like, lovable goofball Reese is just honestly great. And then for any of you anime fans, he's done a lot of stuff in more recent anime. Two of my personal favorite roles of his are as Bruno Bucciarati in Part 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and most recently he's currently the voice of Tengen Uzui in Demon Slayer. Both of those, I'm a big fan of his roles in both of those animes, so I'm really, really excited to just have, if Ray Chase is going to come back as Reese. At the same point though, please get Laura Bailey back as Fiona, Erin Yvette as Sasha, and Chris Hardwick back as Vaughn, because I'm okay with Troy Baker not returning as Reese. Just get Chris Hardwick, Erin Yvette, and Laura Bailey back. If you're gonna have August back too, get Nolan North to play him again, and have Ashley Johnson come back as Gortys if she's gonna come back too. I just want the whole Tales of the Borderlands crew back if possible, please. Now, just one last thing I want to talk about in regards to Tales of the Borderlands Season 2 is basically, what exactly is the gameplay going to be like for Tales of the Borderlands Season 2? So, I want to talk about this because we didn't actually really get a confirmation as to what the gameplay style of Tales of the Borderlands Season 2 is going to be about. We don't know if it's going to be a point-and-click game like Tales of the Borderlands Season 1 or just a general Telltale game. We don't know if it's going to be like a shooter, like a first-person shooter RPG like a regular Borderlands game. We don't know either of those. All we know is that from Randy Pitchford's reveal of Tales of the Borderlands Season 2, he only said, though, that they're just doing this again to dive back into the world of interactive fiction, as he called it. But by all extension, aren't all video games interactive fiction? So Randy's words are a little bit vague in that sense, that I don't really know what to expect. I mean, part of me hopes that it's more of a traditional Telltale experience, that it's going to be basically a third-person or point-and-click exploration adventure game. You make choices and so on, and it changes the narrative of the game and such. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if it was a first-person shooter like, let's say, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands or just a regular Borderlands game, but I would admit it would feel kind of odd, even though Borderlands 3 did sort of dabble in having choices with their missions, even though not to a big degree. But I do feel, though, that Gearbox hopefully understands that they know what people liked about Tales of the Borderlands Season 1, and that how to replicate it with Tales of the Borderlands Season 2, but we'll have to wait and see. Though, one thing, though, I also forgot to mention just now is looking at the official Gearbox Twitter post announcing Tales of the Borderlands Season 2. Telltale's Twitter actually tweeted out in response to Gearbox, tweeting out the following: "Congratulations on the Tales of the Borderlands 2 announcement, Gearbox. We can't wait to see what happens next." So there we go, guys. For anyone who's concerned maybe that this is going to be another Wolf Among Us 2 situation where maybe Gearbox is doing this without Telltale's blessing, Telltale's clearly given Gearbox to go ahead and do the rights to this, which, I mean, I understand, though, that technically Telltale doesn't own the rights to Tales of the Borderlands. Gearbox can just do whatever they want with the Tales of the Borderlands license, since they own it. But it is nice to see, though, that Telltale is being good sports about it, and they're saying, like, hey, yeah, good on you for making another Tales of the Borderlands game. We can't wait to see how it goes for you guys, because I do think that's a good way to go about it, that clearly that Telltale knows that they have a good relationship with Gearbox, and while Gearbox hasn't officially said that Telltale is helping out with Tales from the Borderlands Season 2, there could be the chance that maybe they took a few employees from Telltale or reached out to maybe Nick Herman or someone else from Ad Hoc who worked on Tales from the Borderlands 2, maybe just to sort of like double check and say, hey, like, are we doing a right job with these characters in Tales from the Borderlands 2? Are we doing this right? But one thing I do want to say, though, is that if they do decide to go about the third-person adventure or point-and-click adventure route, will the game be episodic? This is something that I'm really, really worried about. Are we going to see Tales from the Borderlands 2 be a full-on game? Like, is it just going to be like Life is Strange True Colors, where the whole game is released all at once? Or is it going to be like proper Telltale games, where it's released episodically? I personally hope it's released episodically, but if it is just one whole game, I'm more than happy to just space out the episodes, because I'm super, super excited for Tales of the Borderlands 2, because we do know it's coming out sometime this year, and yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen with Tales of the Borderlands Season 2. And so, that was my little video covering basically everything to know about Tales from the Borderlands Season 2. I can't believe, just saying that out loud, I'm saying that. Tales from the Borderlands Season 2 is coming. It'll be released this year in 2022 from Gearbox and 2K with the blessings of Telltale Games, and it will feature a brand new story with brand new characters at the center of Tales from the Borderlands 2. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we may not be seeing other returning, it may be possible that returning characters from Tales from the Borderlands Season 1 will be showing up again in Tales from the Borderlands Season 2, but who knows? Even if this whole game was just brand new characters, I'm totally on board with them making Tales from the Borderlands an anthology series. Basically, make every Tales from the Borderlands game about a story of brand new people just going about their lives in the world of, in the Borderlands universe, and just see how their stories collide. I think that's cool, just tell the stories of people that aren't Vault Hunters in the Borderlands universe. What are they doing? Like, maybe we'll see someone who's just like a random like citizen and stuff like that. Like, of course, we had in Tales of Borderlands 1, we had Reese, who was a Hyperion accountant, and Fiona, a Pandoran hustler. Maybe work with like maybe a street performer from Promethea and maybe a fisherman from Eden 6 for Tales of the Borderlands 2. They could easily do that, but we won't have to wait too long to keep guessing as to what's going to happen with Tales of the Borderlands 2, as Gearbox confirmed in the official tweet from Borderlands' official Twitter that we'll be getting a proper reveal of Tales from the Borderlands Season 2 this summer. So that could be anywhere from just 2 to 4 months away. So I'm super, super excited. But from any point now until June to August 2022, we'll be getting our first look at Tales from the Borderlands Season 2, and we'll find out concretely when this year the game will be released. So are you guys excited for Tales from the Borderlands Season 2 as much as I am? If you are, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I will see you guys later.